Recorded December 9th, 2024. Good afternoon, Brody. Good afternoon, Ray. Good afternoon, Rodney. How's everyone doing?
Hmm.
Amazing.
Amazing.
Hmm. I don't know.
It seems like someone had just tapped everybody's soul. Everybody started rolling on slow mo today.
Oh
It
boy.
happens.
No kidding.
And
Yeah.
Microphone.
Brody,
Good.
Bro- Bro-
Excellent.
Brody's too happy. Something's wrong in the universe. Something's off
Yeah. I
Peter.
don't know. Yeah. He's.
I'm trying to offset my yawning that was occurring 30 seconds before the show started with happiness.
What happiness? It's nothing like a good glass of happiness. I get it.
Happiness.
Nothing going on. So, uh, I've not been here, so I don't know what's going on.
We noticed.
I was on the other side of the planet because I believe China's directly on the other side of the United States, but I was pretty far away. I was in New Zealand and Australia, and that is a wonderful trip in two wonderful countries. So shout out to Andre Camelo who was on the show, who met me for breakfast in New Zealand. I believe I might have said it when I jumped on the show while I was in New Zealand, something like that. And I couldn't catch up with uh, uh, the guest on the show, uh, Pharrell, and Sydney because I mean in Melbourne because we got our schedules messed up and the son had to graduate. But everything was good. I didn't really do any work. I I read a lot. I renewed a bunch of certifications that were like you have 30 days to renew your SC whatever. So I got that done and didn't touch a piece of tech. I actually went on vacation slash holiday, and I was not an atypical American who decided to take their work with them. And I came back extremely refreshed, so I'm happy for that.
Good.
Read a bunch of AI articles and stuff like that, but that was just reading. I didn't touch a computer. What about you, Ray? What did you break?
Oh Lord, it's just my immune system, man. I don't know. Like my
Wow.
kid sick, poor thing. And she was getting better, and then she just hit her again, and came, like I got it, and so I feel it like burgeoning, like it's developing. I already feel like, oh crud, am I losing my voice? But then I'm like, did somebody ask for that for the holidays? Is that it's like don't don't worry, silver lining for all those concerned. So there's that. But we were able to get the tree decorated, and she loves all of the razzle dazzle, so it's a big deal. Being on my own, like Mary Tyler Moore, kind of, take a look at me now. So I feel very victorious about that. You got to take the wins where you can get them, and then work. These are good problems to have, like getting drive-bys, like, hey, can you do this, can you help with this, can you chat with this person right now, totally like unprepared, no opportunity to like it's a real coming in hot cold handoff, I would say. It's been whirlwind but very rewarding. So we're more to come in 2025. we'll
Oh,
see.
I,
We'll
I
see.
I'll go back. I did do something today as far as work related in tech. So there's a capability, and I got to go test it out. I saw it in a presentation today. When you have a lot of security leadership, it's so hard for security leaders to find a way to quantify that they are being effective. Like if you're the CISO or CISO related type level, how do you go to the powers that be or the bean counters or the money lenders and say, hey, we are doing a good job as a security organization? They go, well, how? Well, inside Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps, they have updated and refined the Power BI plugin. So now you can pull in telemetry from, you know, MDA, MDCA, MCAS, whatever you want to call it, and you can now turn that into a report to say these many unsanctioned applications were observed, or these many data privacy alerts were observed, and you can put these into a dashboard that you can render pie, line, whatever you want to do. And so now you can see not necessarily the effectiveness of something, unless you're measuring whether you want to prevent it, but you can now have insight that's outside of the management and administrative portal. Because before then, we were just taking screenshots and putting them inside of a PowerPoint to say this is that. And in MDCA, there is an executive report feature where you print it out, it makes it a PDF. But this one's a little bit more dynamic, and I'm working on it. Maybe I'll have it ready for the next show to and show it to you guys. Because right now I'm only able to get it to work with the 365 Activity API. I want to be able to pull the Defender for Endpoint API and show how many malicious URLs were stopped, how many malicious files were quarantined, what attacks were thwarted and whatever. So I'm gonna show that. I played around with the 365 Activity API. It's not so hard, but trying to call that MDE one is a little bit challenging, and then being able to put that into a Power BI. I think that's going to be something good to get out. And I think I saw a Microsoft MVP that may have gotten close to it, but I'll put it on my docket for next Monday. Let me see if I can show it to you guys. I got it cool. I'm having it ready to show, but that's what I did. So, but it's built natively into Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps that you can port alerting incidents and other reporting metrics directly into Power BI. Pretty cool. And Purview is coming, but with Purview, did you guys know that Power BI and Microsoft Fabric are not mutually inclusive? They're not necessarily the same thing.
Yes.
Okay. It took me a minute. They're like, no, like, oh, they're so clever. I get it now. So,
I think that happened while you were out of the country, by the way.
Oh, that's when I did it.
That's why. Yeah, that's why.
Yeah.
Speaking of raspy voices, well, first off,
It's not raspy. It's sexy.
It's super sexy. First off, Edward, can't wait to see that. Example that you talked about. And Ray, yeah, weird that you have the Christmas cheer. You of all people, I thought would be calm, collected, and boring when it comes to Christmas time. That's a joke. That's sarcasm. You're just like so like, oh yeah, Christmas.
Okay,
let's kill it. Let's crush it.
I'm very.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm sorry.
I'm like the chism is very strong. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, why? For what reasons? Which
No, it's all good. It's all good. I'm trying to inject humor into the situation.
Bah
you know,
humbug.
you're really doing a great job when you have to explain it.
Exactly. Yeah, no problem.
It's like him telling the joke on stage. Let me tell you guys why this joke is going to be funny.
Yeah. I should actually get a joke lined up like that. I think that's a good idea.
I would
Yeah,
be
it's
Charlie Day in Always Sunny. I'm like, no. What you're not understanding is if you go to point B and then you go to the point, L, you would get it. You would come full circle. Yeah, exactly. Very frantic.
So I once again I keep coming back. Let's go to Rod. Rod, what about you, Mr. Rod Stewart, sexy voice?
What have I broken? My voice. Yeah. That AI tour last week, I was in Toronto. I blame it on Canada.
Toronto sucks. That's why.
Right, yeah.
Sorry.
That's all right. I like Toronto. My wife likes Toronto.
It's good. As long as you're happy.
I don't know if I'm a bad person or not, but I knew that I was getting a cold when I flew in on Sunday. But I felt like I had 2 days to get over it so that I could still deliver my sessions last week at AI Tour. And it did work out. I timed it right. But man, the after effects of this cold, it's taken my voice out. So I was able to do what I needed to do in Toronto. But then I've come home and the cold has just never gone away. So I'm getting closer and closer.
I can tell that Rod is really sick or not. Here's a litmus test.
Yeah.
Did you run today?
Of course I did.
I wasn't
every day. I run every day.
Yeah.
One leg you would run.
Yeah, he would.
By the way, I have a all too important announcement for a lot of our listeners and for especially Microsoft softies in general. You're all familiar with the aka.ms/LA demo environment where you have access internally and publicly to data where you can write KQL queries and look at security stuff. Well, guess what?
What?
Due to our security motions within Microsoft, that shut down over the weekend. And there's a chance it may not come back. So we're still working
Oh,
on that. We'll see what
Rob,
happens.
did you not use MFA? I'm just kidding. That's
I
really sad. That's really sad, honestly.
It
'Cause that's a
is
great
sad
resource.
because
Yeah.
we wrote that KQL book based on LA demo so people could get access. I think the majority of our workshops for Sentinel and KQL and Defender XDR internally that we give to customers are based on LA demo. So yeah, I don't know what's going to happen.
Somebody said that on a call. I sort of had a glance by today, and now it makes sense. I didn't understand what they were talking about. I'm like, what environment? But okay, that makes
Yeah.
sense. I've not seen it shut down because I haven't been in it. But man, if that is down, there are a lot of. You're right. There are a lot of connections and linchpins to training and and other things that reference that particular environment. Who knows why they shut it down? I don't know.
Russia. It's Russia.
It's Russia. Yeah, it's always somebody else, right? It's not the budget. We need more space for more GPUs. How about that?
Mm.
And we took those. So to our listeners, we don't have a guest this week. We are in the throes of the holiday season. And oh, Brody, I didn't ask you.
Brody.
I'm sorry, Brody. Man, I apologize.
Well, we already blamed Canada for my voice, so I
Yeah.
think we're good.
It's amazing that everybody on the call feels dead and out except for Brody.
Oh, that
Hiding
is suspicious. Now that you mention it, I was okay. That's pretty.
Mhm. Go ahead, Brody.
Prescription medication enabling neurodiversity. Right. So what did I break? What did I break today? I am trying my best to get over to push forward and get all the things done over the next 2 weeks. Do you know it's funny how many people want deliverables delivered in the final weeks leading up to Christmas? It's
They really don't. They just want to push you to see if you could actually do it.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's fair. And like, there's so many meetings that got scheduled because of this, and then there's other people who are like taking off, like I'm going away, and the customer's all like, "Who am I going to talk to?" I'm like, "Well, I'm the only guy remaining, so I guess I'm taking that on." You know, it's hilarious stuff like that. So I mean, like the next couple of weeks is basically just like try to get all your things done as quickly and as efficiently as possible. Yeah, but I gotta tell you, like. On my one customer, I'm learning a lot about secure landing zone implementation on the Azure infrastructure front. It's an area that I wasn't really strong in leading up to this engagement. I've been more of like a modern work and core security in, like the XDR platforms or the Defender platforms. And so this is like new, and it's expanding on my knowledge of Azure policy, et cetera. And, there's a lot of really interesting things that go into how Microsoft recommends customers design their landing zones in Azure. And this particular customer, I don't know if you ever heard of, you guys heard of Cloud for Sovereignty at Microsoft? Does that ring a bell? Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, sir.
Kind of. All right. Well, so there's some public sector organizations and certain private sector organizations that need a more data sovereign specific, have to meet certain data sovereignty specific requirements, right? And so Microsoft has its standard Azure landing zone recommendation, which you tune to your needs. But then for like public sector and other organizations, especially organizations in Europe under GDPR, the configuration of your tenant has to be even more finely tuned to ensure that there's no data traversal, like from Canada to the United States, right, or from Germany to France, right? And there's different capabilities and tools that you can implement in order to ensure that you're compliant on that front and therefore secure. So I don't know if anyone's curious on that, but I've been learning more about it, and I actually got to ask that question today and sounded smart on my call with my team, and we're going to look into it. So we'll drop that in the notes if anyone's curious. Cloud for Sovereignty, the SLZ as well as the ALZ standards. Pretty cool. It's cool. So I'm learning about that. So that's my tech interesting new thing for today.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
All right.
Oh,
Very
and
cool.
one more thing before we go. I forgot. I was sharing a screen. Okay, so Edward, what you're talking about is hold on, the antipod, right? The exact other side of the planet. Okay, so I pulled this up because I was curious. So the exact other side of the planet for Calgary is the Indian Ocean, but almost it's Port-au-Prince in the French Southern Territories. Now, Edward, you live, I think, in Atlanta. That's well known.
Oh my goodness! Why are we airing people out? What are we doing?
Anybody can look that
Why
up.
are we doxing people?
I know.
Everybody knows
I'm
already.
getting,
We've said this on the show like multiple
I'm,
times.
I'm, I'm going to get swatted after this.
Yeah, well, you're not giving your exact address. Oh, Edward, you're still in the Indian Ocean, but it looks like you're close to, go figure, the west
Please.
coast of
I
Australia.
want
That's kind of
whatever you've
hilarious.
taken. I
That's
need
kind of
it.
hilarious.
I need it in triple dose.
The antipod, right? The antipod, isn't that cool? Yeah, you always think it's China, but because of the way that the globe works, I guess it's the Indian Ocean. I always thought it was China too back in the day. What about Ohio? I know someone else, randomly who lives in Ohio. So if we put Ohio in, right, let's plug that in here,
Oh my lord!
right? Oh, not quite Australia yet. Yeah. So we're all just in the ocean. So the moral of the story is here. If you're in Canada or the United States, is don't drill a hole to the other side of the earth because it's just going to be the ocean, and that's probably going to mess things up. There you go.
Beachfront property that's it. In Ohio, that would be great.
In Ohio.
Yeah.
There you go.
We can
You're
drill
welcome.
a hole, and we can drill a hole on the other side of the planet and flood Ohio, Middletown, Ohio, at that, and just flood it out.
What street? Just kidding.
I'm not gonna do that. So, Ron, let me ask you a quick question. I know that, and Brody, thank you for telling us, what you got going on this week.
Welcome.
Ron, let's flip over to Security Copilot. To our listeners, you can see that we're bouncing all over the place, right? Like a tennis volley. Sometime in August, they released a bunch of people released a bunch of either blogs or write-ups about the SCU optimizer, whether it be the one that automatically turns down your SCU. But have you seen the one, either external or internally, where you can go in and predict the SCU consumption before you even write a prompt? I saw it today, and I don't know if it's publicly shared because I saw it from a Microsoft
I've
source.
not seen that. So essentially, you give it a prompt, and it's going to tell you how much it's going to cost.
It will try to predict how much it's going to consume or cost. Is that the proper term when you talk about SCUs, cost or consumption?
Consumption.
So I looked at it and I was like, okay. And I believe it also had a field that you could reference another prompt, and it could look at the history of that prompt and then come back and give you a predictive consumption amount of it. I have it, but I don't think I can show it. I don't know if it's internal Microsoft, but I thought it was cool. But I don't know how you validate it, right? Because
there is a calculation on the back end, right? Because we're still talking about generative AI. We're still talking about tokenization, still talking about tokens. So there is a cost to tokens. So if you know what that prompt is going to be, we take into account, I would imagine this tool does, because, I've thought about this, the tokens plus the amount of time it takes to identify the specific plugin. And then there's some things that we do on the back end that's different because it's a security tool than generative, just kind of standard ChatGPT. But we know what that process looks like. We know how long it takes. We know how much compute it's going to take along with those tokens. So I would imagine that's probably what that tool does.
Yeah. My apologies to our listeners for teasing it and not having it ready. If we deem that we can make it publicly or available, we'll put it out there. But I saw it today, and I saved the page. I'm like, okay, so you put in a prompt and you put in about 5 other fields, and then it comes back and says, we predict that it's going to run this. And then I think it literally asks or looks for the prompt history. But I'm thinking, wait a minute, is this built into Copilot? Because if it's looking at prompt history, it must have access to it. But it didn't look like it was attached to a tenant, because if it did, then I don't think I have access to it. So it must be publicly facing. We'll investigate it to our listeners and get it out there. I thought it was interesting to see that tool, and see if someone's trying to do it and how they would accurately go back and predict. What's the term? SU burn. There you go.
I don't think there's such a thing as an accurate prediction. You can't put those two words together, but anyway.
Well, I guess they had a concept of a plan, so we'll see how that works out.
Yeah. It's like a forecast. It's like like forecasting the weather.
Listen,
Yeah.
Rod, we don't need your literal words here on the show, okay? This
Well,
is this is way too
I just
much.
know from a security copilot perspective, anytime that we overstate something, customers are like, well, you said.
Yeah,
So
that's
just-
fair.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
Rod
Yeah.
Trent said I could do this, so
Yeah.
yeah,
You can do
fair.
it.
I've gotten caught by that numerous times.
Fair.
Okay. Well, we'll see if we can put it in the show notes if we can, and let everybody take a stab at it and run at it. What else from the world of tech? Brody, you were mentioning something just about customers asking for these last minute things, but you didn't give any details. Any juicy projects
Oh,
other than
yeah,
your landing zones?
Yeah, the landing zone. Well, that's like one of them is the same customer. They I gotta be like really anonymous. They broadly want to be informed of when there's non-compliance within their environment when it comes to like Azure policy. So like big frameworks like NIST 853, the MCSB, the Microsoft Security Controls Benchmark. And then they also, as part of the landing zone implementation, they're going to use Azure policy to enforce a lot of these controls eventually, right? So this customer has downstream consumers of the overall infrastructure, just like most organizations, right? And those downstream consumers need to be responsible for their own like subscription, for example. And so we need to report on not only top level compliance across the entire data estate and their entire tenant root group level, but also the individual subscriptions. So there's ways of doing it within like Defender for Cloud is like the built-in option, like the easy button. But I've proposed to your point, Edward, using Power BI, another method that's been openly developed by our community to give them more granular level views, right? And they can get better metrics and pretty charts and charts with colors, right? And pie charts, that are red and blue and green. Everybody loves charts, right? But actually, when you pipe it all into Power BI, you get a lot more capability. So getting the initial like what that looks like kind of in their demo environments, their sandbox is like the goal effectively in the next 2 weeks. So that'll be fun to plug in. Second, if there's any questions, just jump in. The second customer, I'm rolling off their financial services company, and honestly, I'm basically just making sure that we're politely pushing their teams to do the work that we asked them to do. Yep. And then I'm going to be bye-bye. I'm disappearing. And then on the third customer, what is that? Oh yeah, we're doing an all-up like security control framework design. And so we go through different domains like logging and vulnerability management or data protection and privacy, right? And we define all kinds of like high-level controls that they want to adhere to and what the assets, threats, vulnerabilities, mitigations, impact, and probability are of each of those controls. And then we get down level into more like secondary level controls, which is more the security concepts. Like, okay, well, you want to protect data in transit and at rest. How would you do that, right? How would you do that? And then you get even further down level and you get into like the L3s, which is like, okay, what's the technical solution or process you employ to do it, right? And so we're going through the entire shebang for basically everything under the Zero Trust umbrella, high level, medium level, technology level to get that done. And we're trying to get most of the level 1, level 2 done by the end of the year. So that's been a fun one to learn. It was supposed to be a security copilot project, but then it changed with the changing of the guard. And honestly, all I can say is if you ever get roped into something that huge, use Copilot to help you do the initial research on how that maps to, the big frameworks like NIST 53 and CSF and GDPR and CCPA. Unless you're really passionate about reading those frameworks independently and looking everything up manually, then do it. But otherwise, if you're limited on time and you have to literally use the technology to keep afloat in your day-to-day, I would definitely start with an AI generated response and then validate it, always validate it. So yeah, that stuff. That's what I'm doing basically. Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Compliance.
I bet you're stoked you asked me the question.
I am.
Yeah.
I asked you the question. Absolutely. I am. So early in the day when we had our podcast monthly meeting, one of the topics that came up, I sort of went off on a totally unrelated topic, but we were talking about, and what made me think about that is you just said CM, NIST, and you just said NIST 53 is 800-53, Brody.
Yes, I abbreviated.
Yeah. We were talking about
Special
the
publication Revision 5 specifically.
we were talking about the we were talking about doing work with the government, and one of the things about doing with a certain agency that you have to be a certain level of CMMC verified or assessed, which is so crazy. You get assessed to be verified, something like that. For those who don't know, or if you don't work in agency, you do stuff, it just literally stands for the Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification. And I'll throw it in here. And it's just for those who that work in agency, you have to have a certain level of cybersecurity posture and modeling. And it used to be 5 levels about 4 years ago, maybe 5. And now it's 3 levels. And it maps to NIST 800-151, which is a combination of NIST, is it 141 and DFARS, or is it NIST 853 plus DFARS? But I threw the abbreviation in there. So basically, you have to have a certain security posture to do work with the Department of Defense. Now it's going to be Department of Energy and a bunch of others. I played around it years ago. Somebody else is just pretty good at this, who's been on the show a couple of times. Richard Diver really understands this stuff.
Friend of the show.
Yep, he really understands it. And who is our other friend of the show that's been on a couple of times that runs some of the Microsoft Federal stuff? Is that Bashar?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Bashar.
Yeah. They really dive into it. And they're really going to, government agencies now have to really adhere to it, because you can't award contracts to contractors such as Northrop Grumman and Raytheon and these things if they don't have it. But obviously the big boys are going to have internal security controls. This is more along, the mom and pop shops that may not be prime but could be subprime on certain projects that they have to map to it.
You mean authority to operate, right? That was what you were looking at earlier. Authority to operate is what you were talking about, right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Even Microsoft's got to do that too. To your point, everyone's got to justify the thing before they can go in. So you're right, Edward.
Yeah. Yep, you got to have an ADO, right? And and then the other thing is that if you are using the E5 SKU from Microsoft, particularly the security SKU, and you implement those controls with a combination of whatever best practice document, or oddly enough, Secure Score, oddly enough, and the compliance manager, just part of the whole purview thing. Correct me if I say anything incorrect, Brody. It will get you close. It will really get you close if you go ahead and just deploy those tools, get those tools configured, do a combination of maybe looking at Secure Score recommendations, looking at the compliance manager that you can go in and choose a framework that you want to spread out a spreadsheet for you. You can just do the check boxes, right? Which is the benefit of having the platform, because if you got multiple best of breed, you have to go to each one of those and then do individual configurations. But now they're looking at the integration. So if you take that and maybe use a zero trust framework, especially the one that Microsoft just got certified, it'll get you close to being ready to be, I think the top level now is 3, which is everything from, password control all the way up to physical security. So pretty good on that. So anybody that's working in agency or have to work with government contractors, CMMC is probably part of your language, but the Microsoft, Defender platform will get you there. And then if you combine that with Sentinel and modern SOC XDR, you can take in the particular section that talks about logging and non-repudiation stuff. So give that a look. So
fine, man. Do you get to work with public sector anymore, or you're in manufacturing? I think mostly, right? Do I have that right?
You were right at the very beginning when you and I first met. I was covering federal and covering, but now I don't. I covered manufacturing, then I covered RCG. Retail consumer goods, and now I cover sort of FSI, financial service industries. Really, not really, but I cover the big 5. I know it's the big 4, but I got another big customer that's just one below the big 4, and they will remind you that they are. So
we are number 5.
we're
That's
number
fair.
5, and that's right. We'll do it.
Well, to your point, I mean, you can leverage some of your own experience working in defense, right? And then for manufacturing, I'm sure you definitely have to talk with customers who need to actually go through this process to work with the Fed effectively. So, I mean, you're a great person to have in that conversation chain.
Yeah, and but when you start talking, what triggered that also, you start talking about, IL level 1 and 5 and all these other things.
That's it. IL levels. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, I hadn't touched that in a while. Like,
It's a lot.
and done that.
I work with some startups who are doing that, right? Like some of the Microsoft for Startups organizations, they have government contractors, and when I work with them on presentations, they talk about their IL level, certification level, and like how they're progressing, right? Because that's important, especially you want to get into the really juicy contracts. So it's a good call out. Yeah.
I think we may need
So
to
you
get
said CMMC 3. Is there a 3 right now?
three.
Because I think
Three is the
we still
three is the
do
high
2.
level now. There used to be 1 through 5. Now it's 1 to 3. Because the 2 entry levels were just 2 entry level. They should have just been the ante to play to
Oh.
deal in, right? So eliminate 2 of those and just roll those to the top 3. And if you're at 3, that means you can probably pass most framework audits, even ISO 27001, things along those lines, right? And maybe SOC 2 also, if you go along those particular things. What we need to do is get someone who's one of those framework experts to come in and talk about what each one of those means, because we just throw those out. We always go, we talk about PCI DSS, we talk about HIPAA, we talk about SOX, we talk about SOC 2, SOC and SOX, right?
Yeah.
SOX and then SOC.
Yeah.
And get someone to come on and talk about those things, because a lot of industries more often than not, they try to tie themselves to that, both if it's a requirement for regulatory compliance and operational, would you say authority to operate, ATO?
Yeah.
ATO.
All the acronyms. Yeah. CMMC levels 1 through 3, ILL levels 1 through 6, and then overall the authority to operate depending on the level requirement. Yeah. All kinds of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All kinds of fun.
All kinds of fun. I agree with you. Let's find someone who wants to talk compliance frameworks, bring them on, and we'll pick their brains on the fun world of
Pick their
frameworks.
brain right out of their heads.
That'd be cool to actually get someone from like NIST on the show, right? That'd actually be pretty cool. Someone who actually works with the standards board, because that's important. That's important stuff. So that'd be cool if we could find somebody.
I'm sure we could. I'm sure we know somebody that knows somebody.
You know who would know somebody? I bet Mark Simos knows people who help write the frameworks, and he would know somebody who would want to come on, and we could give him a platform. Definitely. Shout out Mark Simos, who was not down to karaoke during the Ignite party, but I got to shake his hand quickly while looking for people to karaoke with.
And,
Well, you have to leave some people guessing. So
gotta leave them guessing.
He just ends up being like this solo all-star on the mic, just like hitting all the notes. I could see that. He's like, no, I don't really karaoke.
I bet he's like the lead singer for Queen.
Yeah.
So Andrew McCullum says, please give a shout out to Gregor Suti and Richard Hopper for Festive Tech Calendar series on demand on YouTube. Well, there you go. Just share it. People around the world, plus charity. Okay, we give a shout out, Andrew.
That's
we need to go look at it.
That's
Which is
Edward's
better,
shout out.
Grafana or PBI? Go deathmatch. Thunderdome.
I'm doing any death matches.
Oh yeah, let's put all the comments up here. Yeah, let's do comments from the audience. Noodle Power BI, obviously, stupid question. Thank you. Now Sentinel can export directly to Grafana running in Azure. Cool. Whatever drives ACR and increases our stock price, we like that here on the show. Thank you. And here's also a link to the Festive Tech Calendar. It's https://www.
You are winning the Deadpool breaking the fourth wall for the MSI show, Brody. You have won the trophy, reigning champion.
Yeah.
You are.
Yeah, one other thing we just have mindless banter on this particular episode is that during this time is when Brody and I really sort of start our studying and hibernation certification thing. Brody, what are you doing in the winter? Because I just signed up for this particular course. Can you guys see it?
Oh, neat.
Yes, cloud security threat detection stands.
Yeah.
So are you signing
I-
up for the course to achieve the result, or just to study the material? Both are fine and okay answers. I'm just curious. Like, do you do it again, like just to get into the knowledge, or do you like ultimately want to achieve the cert?
I want to try to achieve this cert. I want to
Okay,
get the
sick.
GCTD. I tried the 508 and I'm like, yeah, but this one right here may be a little close to my warehouse. Sorry about that. Did it change out? Did you mean to change it?
No, we can see it. It's all good.
No?
Yeah, so SEC 541 cloud security threat detection. Yeah,
Yeah.
nice,
Yeah.
man.
So I got that signed up, and I will, when you sign up for it online on demand, you have 30 days to start the course, or it will start it for you. And then after that, you got 4 months to complete it, or you lose access to the material.
Oh,
I
so it's like online course
yeah,
material. You need to be on a schedule, and then you write at the end, I guess.
yeah, you got to go ahead and do it. And I'm doing it. Um, Obviously, with the holidays coming, I'm going to wait to actually start the timer until
Yeah.
right after Christmas,
Yeah.
and then I'm going to go through the course on demand, and then I'll sit the exam. But I want to get a little bit of insight, because when you're looking at the 508 forensics course that I took, it is talking post breach. 80% of the time it's talking post breach, right? You assume that you have been breaching, you have been breaching and responding, right? But this one was trying to look at it from a cloud security threat protection, right? Taking out
Right.
the aspect of a physical presence in your IT infrastructure. And I want to, it was recommended by Tony Sims at Microsoft, as well as Jeff Sloganberger. So I said, I'll give it a shot.
Friends of the
And
show.
yep, friends of the show. We don't get, well, at least I don't know about Ray and Rod. We don't get to work in Azure as much as you do now. So you are a resident Azure expert around those things. I just don't. I'm in the XDR suite, or either I'm in Sentinel, which technically is in Azure, but not really in Azure.
Yeah,
But
I
it
got
is
you.
in Azure, but
Yeah.
I may go that route. So we'll see.
The world's computer. Yeah. No, that's cool, man. That's a cool one. I'll look into it. 541. Okay, I'll write it down. To answer your question, I let a couple lapse. Oops. And I try to write exam. So first off, the one that's coming up for renewal is SC200. So I should just do that and not let it lapse, because that would be stupid. I let 300 lapse. Oops. I need to rewrite that one. But what I try to do is align it to like how my project's going. So over a year ago, I had like the AZ 104, and I let that lapse because I had 6 customers and I was just like drowning. I had like no life. But now that I'm working with Azure more, I feel more comfortable. Like, hey, I should take that again, and then I could actually maybe tackle the one that scared me for a while, which is the AZ 500. Some of the guys in our Discord channel, some of the folks in our Discord channel have been like, "No, Brody, just do it. You'll be fine." I've been like, "I don't know. It's got networks in it, So I'm like, so when I'm working on something with a customer, it's like active in my mind and I'm experiencing it, and then I take the exam while that's fresh, because then the next thing could be like a 180. You could be working in like literally anything, like DLP again or something, right? So those ones are the ones that I'm targeting to do, just the Microsoft ones. But so once I get all those shored up, Edward, I'd love to hear your feedback on how 541 went, because I've been saying it for a few years, but it's never really worked out. And with a newborn, it's even more fun. Is like more industry vendor neutral exams, to your point, right? And SANS, I don't have any SANS certs, and I hear it's like, that's a good investment. I hear they're hard from you and others. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Ray? Rod, are you guys doing any like certs or anything coming up?
I'm trying to graduate from my 3rd master's program in cyber operations.
Right.
Ray's
I'm
busy.
trying to manage my life. I'm like everything's falling apart, but I make it look like it's not. It's falling apart in slow motion. So that is what I'm focused on at the moment.
Yeah,
Lexi?
This is renewal season for me. This is renewal season. I think it was about 3 years ago. I took like my entire time off and took every single Microsoft certification test we have and passed. And it's this time of year when all of the renewals come up. So I literally have like 3 renewals a week.
I got all mine done. I got the 100 done, the 200 done, the 300 done. I let the 400 SC 400 lapse.
Oh my good! The Purview one. You would have known that Fabric and Power BI are different things had you just done.
Had I known that, as
Yeah.
I stated, of course, right? I did
He was
do that.
making a statement. Nobody likes Purview. I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
Whoa,
and then,
Just
whoa,
kidding.
and-
Just
and-
kidding.
whoa! 90% of the Ignite announcements are Purview, so I guess Microsoft likes Purview. Just throwing it out there.
Yeah.
and I think there are a couple of new certs getting ready to come out. Frank,
Ooh.
if you're listening, Frank Grimberg, co-creator of the show, friend of the show, you know, he works on these things. He said that the I don't know if I can say that. Anyway, there are going to be some new certs going to come out. They're going to have new formats in the way they go about how they measure your skills and everything. So let's just say that they're continuing to evolve the SE200. How about that?
Ooh.
And
Mysterious. So basically, write your certs right now because you never know how difficult they may become later.
well, you know my position on this. These huge certs that cover so many things. I don't like composite certs like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, if they're testing 5 different products, and it's the SE200, we should have the
Broken out.
SE1 195, 196, 197, 199, whatever. And if you get all 4, you automatically get the 200. But that
Yeah.
fell on deaf ears a couple of years ago. So, but you know, it
You
is
never know.
certification time.
There's so many things coming out to your point, Edward. I mean, like there's just a ton, you know? So maybe getting more tactical with the certs, like is something Microsoft will look at because there's like only 4 dozen defenders and 5,000 purviews, right?
Yeah.
So and like not a million entras. So like yeah, maybe it makes sense to like start getting a bit more granular into the specific domains.
Yeah, you know, because we got role-based certifications, right? So why not have, you know, individual workload certifications, even if they are part of a SKU platform to be able to do it. Yeah, one of the good things about that, if it did exist, is that as products evolve, because Microsoft Cloud App Security or Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps, it's slowly become a SASE solution, SASE solution, right? It's being built into that secure edge stuff now, and be
Yeah.
able to do that. I don't know if that's a direct reaction or pivot to compete with Zscaler, ZPA, ZIA, but you start to see that capability start to ingrain into that. And Cloud Security, Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps is making a little silent comeback because it's Shadow IT's becoming that thing again. And there's, and majority of all AI tools are, Murad, correct me if I'm wrong on this, because I don't know if the Copilot in 365 is browser based, but they're browser based, right? They're HTML based, and you can see these things. And now that anybody can just go out and sign up for, you know, Perplexity or anything, start using these particular tools in your environment. You don't know whether these tools are malicious, benign, or inadvertently bad. They could expose your environment. So, you know, Defender for Cloud Apps sees 300 plus or maybe 400 plus different AI tools. Speaking of AI tools, did you know that ChatGPT released a ChatGPT? Can you see the quotes?
I can see
Yes.
the
Pro. It's like
Yes.
$200 a month.
Is it
a lot.
200? I know I was
$200
paying
bucks.
something.
I
What are
pay
the
like the
capabilities?
15 a month or whatever. Yeah. What
Yeah,
are the
I know.
capabilities, Edward?
I mean, the way they were showing it is that you could write a formula on the board teaching advanced geometry, and you could scan it as you are
OCR.
going across, and it'll tell you, well, you almost got it right, but I could see that when you took that particular side of the, you know, the polygon, you didn't measure this. So now you're starting to see stuff that it can do interactive tutoring based on
Real
visual
time?
source reference. Yes, visual
That's
source
sick.
reference.
That's sick.
I'm like,
Yeah.
you're like, I'm like, oh my God, that's so cool. And it was like 200 a month. Oh, that's not so cool.
Luckily, you don't do advanced geometry on a whiteboard.
Not at all. Do it in my
But that
head.
is cool, honestly. I use like GPT Copilot broadly, right? And one of the things I get annoyed with, and I tell it, I'm like, no, I want you to do this, is the fact it doesn't always give me all the results because there's like a soft cap in how much compute it's actually going to give you
Yep.
to the response that you want, even on the paid version. And so sometimes I'm like, here's a list of 200 things. Give me the output of these 200 things. And it's like, here's 15 random ones that I decided on. It's like, no, I wanted all 200 because they like cap you at the amount of like compute space and time and any one given request. So if what you're saying is the window's way more open, then you're effectively paying for more compute, right? Like to acknowledge or to manage the output that you're requesting. And the OCR capability is pretty darn cool. It sounds like
Mhm.
$200 well spent if you want to plagiarize homework even better than you did before.
And I don't think they allow you to get a 30-day trial or anything. I need to get back on it. But the demo that I saw, I'm like, that's not bad. Being able to see you write
Cool.
and look at, literally scan your homework,
Yeah.
on a piece of paper to say, hey, you were right, but this is where you forgot to carry the one. for
Yeah,
lack of
no
a better
doubt.
word, and be
Imagine
able to
like
see that.
you're getting surgery 20 years from now, Edward, and it's like, do I cut here or here? What do you think, GPT 5000? And it's like, oh, I wouldn't cut that one.
Don't cut the
You
red
know.
wire.
Okay,
Nothing
yeah.
ever good is by cutting the red wire. Don't do it. There's red stuff pumping through that red wire. Do not do that. Let's not do that. But it just seems like that announcement about AI. What's the first announcement in a while? Has the AI glimmer started to dimmer? Uh, yeah, I try to
That's
spit some
hilarious.
rhyme.
Yeah,
I
you
don't know.
were working on something.
I
You're
was
like,
trying
I'll
to,
cook this up. I'm gonna.
yeah, I'm gonna do
Did you just
something.
come up with that on the fly? That was pretty good for you.
Yeah, I stumbled through that.
Yeah.
But
Well,
I,
you mentioned something about everything being web-based, right? So I talk about this in my sessions. I think it's important to kind of highlight, if I can do this without sounding like I'm mad, because I'm sitting here trying to force my voice out. People are like, "Are you mad?" Generative AI or AI is not the interface. We create interfaces to give people access to generative AI. So if it looks like it's a web-based tool, that's literally just the front end. It's the stuff that happens on the back end that supply. It's the service. So even
Yes.
just like Security Copilot, I show people the standalone version, and then I show the embedded experiences, and I say, this is not Security Copilot. This is literally just how we give you access to that service on the back end. So
Yeah.
when we block things, or we block Defender for Cloud Apps and things like this, we're not literally blocking that website or that tool. We're blocking the back end or that back end
Yeah.
service.
You
Good
you're
point. You
blocking
don't
the
have to yell at us, but we got you. Thank
Yes,
you,
there you
Rod.
go.
All right, yeah.
you're blocking the operational and functional intelligence behind the UI UX. That's right.
Rod is so mean.
Rod is me. He's getting
I am.
grumpy in his old age, right?
Yeah.
Maybe
geez.
it's my eyebrows.
Relax.
I need to get them thinned out. I don't know.
Is that what it
definitely
is?
eyebrows.
Yeah,
it's
maybe.
He has
definitely
the eyebrows like one of those guys on the old version of Doom. What was the name of those?
I feel like Bert from Bert and Ernie.
No,
You're definitely
Yeah,
Bert.
he is
Megan,
Bert.
she would not let you leave the house like that. She loves you. She keeps you sharp.
Yeah. So, well, guys, we've there was a good catch-up show. I love the banner talking to you guys. Seems like I've been gone forever. I've really only gone 15, 16, 17 days. To our listeners that came in to listen, thanks. We'll figure out whether that Copilot, Security Copilot predictor is something that we can share publicly, because it's interesting. I'd like to run it and then actually run the prompt and then have it come back and say, oops, I forgot to carry the one. Instead of costing you one, it cost you 10. How about that? And see, I'll find it and I'll get it to you. I'll get it to us and we'll get it out in the show notes if possible.
That sounds cool.
Well, Ray and Rod, you guys need to go take some over-the-counter medicine and get better, man.
Get better. Or see a witch doctor. Hey, do we want to pump up our upcoming Christmas show?
Oh, yeah. Well, go ahead and pump it up, Brody.
Sick. We got a Christmas show. And if you've never been to the Christmas show before, boy, are you missing out. Rod is going to drop in the show notes the details. I'm just assuming, Rod, because you're awesome. The details on our upcoming show, which is next week, right, Rod? Is that correct?
It is next week, which would also mean, oh, Ray's here already. I guess we should start. Which means also it's our last episode of the year or of the season. So what we do is we invite people from past shows to come by and stop by, talk about what they're doing there now, and maybe talk about what they're doing for the holiday.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
and
only if we
then
like the guests. If we don't like you, you're not invited. If you dress up as the holidays in some regard, you get extra bonus points. I think Vishal nailed it. Who else nailed it last year? But he dressed
Oh
up like
yeah.
Santa. Who was
He
that?
had like a
what-
jumper. Yeah.
yeah, we've had Ren Yuri on the show, and he looks just like Santa.
Rainier. Right. Yeah.
We got to
Send
get
me
him
rum.
back on. He looks
Yeah, we got to get
just
Rim on.
like Santa.
He's basically Santa Claus. Yeah, he needs to
Yeah.
come on.
Yeah.
So if you're
Yeah.
a previous listener or watcher or guest of the show and you feel like you want to come on, even like some of our amazing folks like Noodle and folk, you are all welcome. It's a hilarious 1 hour of your life that you'll never get back, and you'll be happy you didn't.
Yes, yes. And what we'll do is also give out a secret raffle Santa present. We'll send someone a
Yes.
Microsoft Security Insights podcast shirt
Yes. A
that you
signed
can
shirt
wear,
from the whole
So-
team.
that you can wear as you roast chestnuts over an open fire. Yes.
Yes.
You can do
But
that.
not too close to the fire, as the material is likely flammable.
It is. It's made
Yeah.
out of hydrocarbons.
Seriously.
you get your fire, right? All right. Well, to our listeners, thanks so much for coming on. It's the holiday season, taking time away from your families to listen to these four yahoos on this. We'll see you next week for the Christmas show, and we'll give away a shirt or two, maybe something else. I'll go through my bag of tricks and we'll pull something out and ship to somebody. And also to you three, I'll be sending you guys your Christmas swag out this week. So
Ooh, I just sent mine today. You're gonna.
I'm gonna love it. I'm gonna
Yeah.
love it.
I delivered
I'll-
maple syrup at Ignite. Sorry, Edward. Now you're gonna get double maple syrup when I see you next in person, because
When
there's
are
a poster strike.
I
And
hope that's not a euphemism for something. 'Cause
No. Rod, you were doing so good. You were doing so good. I said it sounded threatening because it's like I'm threatening you with maple syrup. That's funny.
Yeah,
anything to do.
one of my
Rod.
Canadian counterparts brought me some from the last time the GBBs got together. So stuff is good too.
Another Canadian.
You
Another
got to- and-
Canadian. There's dozens of us.
yeah, they're just
Yeah,
multiplying like lemmings. They're just there.
definitely
know,
lemmings. Yeah. Well, the end of the
It-
world is just a few kilometers
Can you
north of
please
me. It
stop?
just falls off. Like there's no more world after that. So
Oh, yeah.
just like lemmings.
That's syrup is good. You have to thin it out with bourbon. After that, it's usable. So it's
Bourbon and
do it
maple
that way.
syrup. I like
Oh
that.
yeah. Yeah, woo, woo, woo. Well, everyone, we will see you. Flat Earth. He's one of those flatliners. We'll see you next week, same time. We really appreciate everybody, and let's do it again this time next week. Last show of the
Let's
year.
do that.
We'll give away some
Peter?
Christmas presents.
okay.